You're listening to the Holistic Spaces podcast brought to you by Mindful Design Feng Shui School, episode 178, Summer Solstice and the Fire Element. Welcome to episode 178 of the Holistic Spaces podcast, where we hope to inspire, educate, and empower you to create your own holistic spaces that nurture and resonate with you. Angie Cho and Laura Morris are the founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School. If you didn't know, we teach Feng Shui online. We teach a Feng Shui certification program at mindfuldesignschool.com. We teach it twice a year. So if you are really getting curious about Feng Shui, be sure to check us out. Sign up for our mailing list. We have special events and newsletters and information that's only available to our newsletter subscribers. You can go to mindfuldesignschool.com, scroll to the bottom, and sign up for our mailing list. So, what's the news, Laura? What's our newest news?
What's our newest news? We just opened up the enrollment, but didn't we just say that? Oh no, we didn't.
Yeah.
So we opened up enrollment. I want to say a couple of weeks ago for our spring 2023 cohort group of our certification of our mentor 100-hour program. So if you are interested in learning more, or you want to do this program, please go check us out at our website. There's all the information on the program, the dates, everything. And we will make sure you're on our mailing list, because we will be doing online live information sessions so that you can show up. We walk you through the whole program, and then you can ask your questions. So, but you have to be on the mailing list, just because you'll get every Thursday we send out our newsletter, and you'll see when they're coming up.
Yep. So we hope to meet some of you. We have a lot of students that find us through the podcast, and it's so nice to finally meet them and get to know them, because we keep the class really small, just 18 students. So we actually personally work with every student. You're not going to be ignored, and we take pride in really having a hands-on approach. So this episode, we're talking about the summer solstice and the fire element. So let's begin talking a little bit about the summer solstice. So the summer solstice is considered summer is considered fire element in the 5-element system and in Feng Shui. So what's summer solstice? A solstice, because we have two of them. We have the summer solstice and we have the winter solstice, right? Yeah. And then we have the spring equinox and the fall equinox. So a solstice is when one of 2 points at which the path of the sun is either the furthest north or the furthest south. It can be during the Earth's rotation around it. And a solstice causes a change in the amount of daylight we see on Earth. So both the summer and the winter solstice are associated with the beginning of a new season in one half of the planet. So like the Northern Hemisphere, we're celebrating the summer solstice, and in the Southern Hemisphere, you'll be celebrating the winter solstice. And during the summer solstice, the sun travels its longest path through our sky all year. So it gives us the longest day. So we have the longest daylight hours. And in the Northern Hemisphere, it also gives us warmer weather. And it's usually around June 20th, 21st, and summer will last technically until the autumn equinox, which is when we welcome the fall in. And we'll talk about that when we get to that time. So what does this mean in terms of Feng Shui? So in terms of Feng Shui, it means that we're shifting from wood yang energy into a time of more explosive, inspirational, more expansive yang fire energy. So we will also naturally hold more heat in our bodies, we'll be more active. And so Feng Shui wise, it's a great time to work with this fire energy that we have, but also you might want to balance it with cooler energies like water or earth. So we'll talk about that. And it's also like a practical time to do things like start to put away your winter clothing, make way for your summer clothing, and start to clear out things. So let's talk about the fire element.
Yeah. So the summer season, each of the 5 elements, if we back it up, just beep, 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 we back it up a bit. Each of the 5 elements are associated with a different season. So there, and then, Angie said that we're transitioning from spring to summer, and you think about that too. There's always an in between, like a late spring, early summer. That boundary, that kind of in between time, is actually earth element. And then we shift into summer is the fire element. So we're solidly in the fire element moving into, when we're in the summer solstice, moving from end of June into July in the north. And fire element it's pretty easy to understand. I mean, fire is, people get that when you just say it's the fire element, you instantly have this image of red, orange flames, and it connects with the sun. I mean, think about how hot it is in the summer. I mean, that is, it's very yang energy, so big energy. So fire is, yes, it's yang, but it's nice to think of a little bit of nuance there. And fire can be small fire, it can be embers, or a candle, or it can be this big raging, bonfire. So there's different, with each of the elements, you can have yin and yang, kind of a continuum of yin and yang. But when we're talking about the fire element in the summer solstice, especially moving in to, to the summer, like moving into July, let's say, you're really talking about the peak fire, yang fire, in that time.
Yeah. And with this peak fire element, but the 5 elements can be a little bit confusing in the sense that, like, what do you do with them? So to simplify it, from our perspective, from a Feng Shui perspective, there's a few ways you can work with this, or the 5 elements at this time during the summer solstice. You can work to activate and utilize the fire element, and then also notice if there's an imbalance of fire energy, and then tone it out as well with earth and water. So let's talk about how to activate the fire element. So one is to start to go out more, which people naturally do. Go out in the world, be outside, be in nature, and also start to connect to more people, to connect with your community, to be out and about, to have like community activities or big dinners or parties. And then also maybe work-wise, you can start collaborating, connecting with people, or find that fire aspect of inspiration and passion. Maybe you have a project that you've been wanting to work on. Maybe now is the time to really start to begin and hone in on that passion project you had.
Yeah, so fire chi. So we can talk about the fire element and then talk about fire chi, which is almost the characteristics of that element. It's the type of energy that element is, or brings into a space, to a person, that we can see and observe and experience. Fire chi is about being visible. So what Angie said, one of them, I mean, there's so many layers to it, but one part of fire is clarity and visibility. Because think about it, fire is bright, fire lights, it illuminates, it brings things, it reveals things, it brings things to the surface, it shows things that may have been in the dark. So it is a time that you want to go out and maybe consider going out and being seen. Okay. And as Angie said, being social, putting yourself out there a little bit more, because the fire element is also in the Bagua, because there's, you layer this on another system in Feng Shui, is connected with the Bagua area of fame and reputation and recognition. And that is about, again, putting yourself out there. And a lot, this is a real, I have to say, this can be really tough for people, and I get it, putting yourself out there. So, but in the summertime, it's like everything is just like you have almost more of a permission to do it, right? Everyone's out there. They're out, they're about, they feel better, they're happy. There's this joy, because fire is also connected to joy. So and so there's this element of making it a little bit easier for you to go out into the world.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be visibility in terms of work or something like that, but it could just be visibility in creating more friendships
Mhm.
or being more visible to meet a partner or being more visible or present for your family, connecting with your family. So it can be in lots of different ways. We're not just talking about like work wise and people
Mhm.
seeing you on social media, 'cause sometimes people think that's what it is, and that's not what we're talking about. And it's especially important if you do have a lack of fire energy, like you've been feeling really uninspired, you've been feeling kind of depleted or staying hidden. It's a good time to embrace that and be out in the sun
Mhm.
and allow yourself to be seen. So, on the other side of it
Mhm.
is, so sometimes you have too much fire energy. So that could be also like as summer it moves more into the middle of summer. But also, if you already are like out there too much, or you're feeling very hot or
Overwhelmed.
overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And you know, an interesting thing is when I used to do yantra painting, we would paint with the elements as well. And one of my teachers would say like, I don't know why you guys want to paint like the red, like Mars or the red fiery planets right now, or use like fiery colors because it's really hot. You should paint with the cooling like moon and blues and things like that, things that cool you down. So if you're feeling, like Laura said, overwhelmed, burnt out, and maybe you've put yourself out there too much because maybe you have a lot of wood and you spent spring kind of overworking yourself and running around, then you might want to actually balance out that fire energy with some earth and water. So, you know, people naturally gravitate towards where? The beach. The beach in the summer. So, being near water because it's very cooling. So, water element is obviously the water. But also, if you think about the sand or the soil around near water or being in nature, that also brings an earth element. So that's a great way to start to balance earth and balance out too much fire when it starts to feel too like it's too much.
Hmm. Yeah, and the earth element is, so water in the cycles, in the five element cycles, water obviously extinguishes fire. We can get our head around that. That makes sense. Earth actually exhausts and tires fire because fire produces earth. So it's a relationship where it might be not as dramatic as, jumping in a cold lake. It's a subtler way of doing it. So if you want it, and you can remember the qualities of earth, it could be, just laying low and being still, because earth it doesn't have a lot of movement as energy. It's being quiet and being still and being grounded. So, running around in fire where there's a lot of fire energy is going to create more fire. So, by being still, you can bring in that earth stillness. So these are all interesting ways to think about these energies, and practical ways to do them. And, obviously another simple way is, so we can do it in your home. We could do it by bringing in more blues, more, the color black is water as well, but blues and greens are wood energy. But if you go with the sort of darker blues, you've got some water there. And if you drink more water, literally drink more water, hydrating foods as well, like watermelon, etc. I mean, these are ways to bring in the water element. I also like, adding mirrors to a space in a particular spot it brings in the water element as well from a feng shui standpoint. So yeah, any other tips and stuff you'd say to bringing in these and using them?
Yeah, absolutely. To balance out that excess fire energy, you could spend more time around water. So maybe taking more baths, taking more showers, doing a foot bath. A lot of people lately have asked me, what do you do if you don't have a bathtub? You could take a foot bath or a hand bath. And everyone's favorite thing to bring in more nature is you can bring plants into your home as well. So I think just connecting with the earth and nature can also help to balance out that fire energy. So we hope that everyone enjoys the summer solstice, and Laura and I love the summer, so we're really looking forward to it. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Holistic Spaces podcast. You can tune in every Monday for a new podcast episode. And if you like our podcast, please share it with others. You can subscribe or leave a review. You can also sign up for our mailing list. Go to mindfuldesignschool.com, scroll to the bottom, and sign up for our mailing list. We have lots of special workshops and special offers and a newsletter with information that we don't share anywhere else. And this is only for our newsletter subscribers. You can also support the podcast by checking out our certification and mini courses at mindfuldesignschool.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.